Ladies and gentlemen, as all of you know, the core mission of Farm Bureau is to be an effective advocate for North Carolina's farm families in every branch of our government. And I don't want to give a civics lesson this morning, but you know we've got 3 branches. Obviously, we spend most of our time working with our elected officials in the legislative branch and in the executive branch of our state and federal government. But we're also engaged with our 3rd branch of government, that's our judicial branch, and that's the courts, monitoring important state and federal cases that certainly you know impact your farming operations. This morning we are pleased to have with us and honored to have her join us this morning, Barbara Jackson. She is an Associate Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. Justice Jackson has served on our state Supreme Court since 2011. And prior to joining our state's highest court, she served on the North Carolina Court of Appeals. And she also worked for several years as General Counsel to the North Carolina Commissioner of Labor, Cherie Berry. And she's been in private practice in Raleigh. Earlier this year, and this is important to us, earlier this year, Justice Jackson wrote the court's opinion in an important agriculture case holding that farmers who receive mislabeled seed from a seed company can sue for more than the cost of the seed. Make no mistake, the decision was a big win for North Carolina farm families. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Farm Bureau welcome to Justice Barbara Jackson.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Hope y'all are doing well today. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and speak to you. It's kind of tough to follow Representative Lewis because we appellate judges aren't known for being particularly humorous. We're known for being nerds, for sitting in front of computers and doing a lot of research and writing. I would just like to share with you, though, I'm not going to talk about the seed law case. Our opinions speak for themselves, but I think it's important in that it just shows you my judicial philosophy, which is just to follow the law as written and not to do anything to create any law. I think that's something that I've followed in the almost 14 years that I've been a judge and that I plan to continue to follow, and I hope that that's helpful to you. I'd also just like to share with you a little bit about my personal background, and although I'm a city girl, I have some connections to farming through my family. I grew up in Raleigh, but my mom's family was from New Jersey. And some of you have probably heard that it's called the Garden State. When she was growing up, it used to be a little bit more of the Garden State. And my grandfather owned a nursery up there. So I wasn't blessed with the green thumb, but my mom was, and my grandfather certainly was. And when I was growing up, we went to visit the nursery, and I remember going out and picking tomatoes in his nursery and everything. And then I remember after he retired and had moved to Florida, he and my grandmother would travel up to New Jersey and spend summers there and visit. And we found something really fun a couple years ago in my mother's belongings when she was moving into a continuing care community. And it was a letter from my grandfather from the 1970s, from when he and my grandmother would go up there and stay in a motel for the summer. And it was a letter about how much he enjoyed that fresh sweet corn. And they would always have like a hot plate where they could heat up and cook food. And it was a really great letter about how he enjoyed a lunch that was just made up of sweet corn. So it was fresh produce was very dear to him. When he came to visit us in North Carolina, he had rheumatoid arthritis, so he couldn't walk. He had been diagnosed at a very young age, and of course we didn't have the medicines then that we have now. And so he couldn't walk around the farmer's market and meet with the farmers, but it was really important for him to drive around, and he'd get the folks to come over and speak with him, the various vendors that were there, and talk to them about their produce and how they grew it and where they were from, and talk to them as he purchased corn and peaches and tomatoes and green beans and all kinds of different things from them. And that's kind of the spirit that he fostered in me growing up, and the importance of getting to know farmers and speak with them and learning about how things grow. On the other side of my family, my husband, Scott Mabry, I'm sure there's some folks here from Stanley County, and I know you know some Mabrys if you're from Stanley County. His dad is Larry Mabry, and Larry grew up on a dairy farm in Stanley County. Now, Scott's family's been in North Carolina since before we were a state. And in 2010, when I was running for the Supreme Court, I found out about something in Harrisburg, North Carolina on the 4th of July. It was a cow milking competition. Like I said, I grew up in the city. I've never milked a cow before in my life, but this was a cow milking competition for folks that are running for office, and those of us that run for office will do anything to sort of participate and get involved. So my father-in-law gave me some instructions on how to milk a cow. He also gave me his overalls. So I went out there, I put on his overalls, and I proceeded to milk a cow, which is really hard, which I know those of you who are dairy farmers know. I had no idea how challenging it was going to be, but with his great instructions, I managed to come in second with my partner, and I very proudly display that second place trophy, which is about this tall, in my office. So I've learned a lot about farming from him too. He was the agriculture teacher at South Stanley High School for his whole career, and so farming is very dear to our family, and so you all are very dear to me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning. Thank you very much.